Welcome back. Belts are tightening in this economic downturn, and clutter and weeds can accumulate because tough financial choices are being made. But when do these tough choices become a fire hazard for you and your neighbor? Here to discuss this issue with me is Code Compliance Officer Sam Jepson and Fire and Life Safety Educator Anita Mapes. Thank you both for being here with me. Anita, I know that typically the fire department isn't associated with social services, so can you tell me a little bit about your role with the fire department?
My job is to go out there and help somebody stay out of crises and not have to call 911 to keep our crews available for more emergencies.
Okay, and Sam, I know that right now there's a lot on television of reality shows about hoarding, but I understand there's a difference between clutter control and hoarding. Can you tell me a little bit about the differences between the two?
You know, we're all collectors and we all collect things, but the difference is a hoarder does not know, he's a collector to the extreme. And what makes the difference, if you can imagine this, it's when his collecting begins to impair and distress his life. And that's when he crosses over and becomes a hoarder. That is not necessarily my term. That is a term that the professionals are using, that they are teaching. The difference between what a hoarder is a person who does not, his issue is he does not have the ability to understand what is of value and what is of no value. Because he will have, like you see here, this big huge mess, and he'll save it because everything can be used for something. So he hangs on to it, not realizing that he could probably do without it.
And Anita, how does this issue of clutter control and hoarding play into the fire department's role? How does that affect us as a department?
If there's a lot of stuff around the house, in the house, it's going to become obstacles for the firefighters to get to the person that may be in. We have to go in and do a search and rescue. So we want to go in there, make sure there's nobody in there. It's going to create obstacles. It's going to take longer time to get to you, to pull you out. Or the clutter on the outside, it's just more fuel for the fire. And then we don't know what's in that can over there. It could be something explosive, so it's putting our firefighters at risk.
Sam, tell me a little bit, like if my neighbor has their garage just filled to the brim with stuff, I mean, is this a real issue that I could call and do something about, or how's that addressed?
Well, unfortunately, Marissa, the interior of the home, the interior of the garage, even the back curtilage, or even the property that is fenced in, the city of Mesa doesn't allow us a lot of leeway or a lot of power and authority where we can come in and tell these people that they have to get rid of it. But when it becomes an eyesore from the street or from the right-of-way, that's when the City of Mesa Code Compliance can become involved. And in other words, if they're stacking up their carport, they're stacking up their side yards and things like that, that's when we can become involved. And yes, it does create a tremendous fire hazard for them, a big problem for us, and a real unsightly problem for the neighborhood.
So what would you guys say, what would the two of you say is the solution to hoarding? Is there a solution for us?
There actually is. You have to understand a little bit about the psychology. The individual loves his things and he has an attachment to them. And the only way that you can break that, Marissa, is to get him to break the attachment that he has to his things. In other words, to get him to realize that this piece of paper or this broken vase or this busted table, yes, it does have value. Yes, he could use it, but in all probability, he's not going to use it, and he would be much happier without it. So can he live without it? That's what you want him to do, is come to the point where he realizes that, yes, I can live without it because I'm probably never going to use it. If he can make that huge step, he's made a big step. You absolutely cannot go in and throw their things away for them. If you go in and throw their things away for them, Marissa, even if he's your father, if those are his things, you have attacked him personally. And you're going to have a relationship problem now with him. And it doesn't make any difference if you're the code compliance officer, or the fire, or his daughter or son or his wife. If you throw his things away, then you're going to have a relationship problem. He's going to pull away from you, he's going to pull away from society, pull away from his neighbors, and he's going to stay in reserve. What we need to do is get him to change his attachment to the things and realize he's not going to need them.
So it's really about getting to the root of the issue with that person, and I'm sure that's where you can come in and address a little more with some of the social service resources that you're aware of. Is it really getting to the root of it, not just the cleanup factor?
Right.
Yeah.
If you change their attachment, the clutter will take care of itself.
Okay.
And there's usually more than one issue going on. Hoarding is not a mental illness. You can't make, you know, your insurance isn't going to cover it because it's not an illness. But there's other issues that are going on. So sometimes people just get overwhelmed or anxiety or anything like that. It's not a bad thing. It's just something that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, and then like we're talking about, especially right now with the economic downturn, I think people have more of an outcry where they're trying to cling on to things that they have, and that's why we're maybe seeing more of a rise in this, or it's becoming more noticeable.
You just lost your house, so why wouldn't you want to keep those things that you had in? At least it's still a piece of what you just lost.
Right.
So it's a hard balance to keep out there.
As we see our economy going down, and we have families that are actually joining together as family units, so you have multiple families living in one home, I'm sure it's also not just, you know, trying to keep onto this stuff, but these are the things that they need. So we're joining multiple households into one residence, and there's just not enough room to have what should be a single family home holding multiple families.
Yeah,
you're absolutely correct.
And it's a hard time for somebody who's just lost their home. It's almost a grief process. They just lost the big thing, they're gonna hold on to the little things. Or the people who can't afford that storage unit that used to keep all that stuff away from the house. You know what, now they need that $200 a month to run their house with extra family in it. So you just put it all together and then it looks a mess.
It's like we talked about in the beginning, there's tough choices that have to be made, and when you're trying to decide where the money goes, sometimes, you know, something has to give, and unfortunately that might be the thing that goes by the wayside.
We try to work with them. We understand, we're understanding of their problems and their situations, and we try to figure out a way to help them to balance things out.
And I think that's the best piece of information that I've learned today, is that if families can turn to some of the resources that either code compliance or the fire department has, it's not coming out to enforce or to come down, but hopefully to work with and help strengthen this family to work through whatever issue might be happening at that point in time.
And they will. They'll work with them, they'll provide resources, they'll provide what needs to be done, dumpsters, whatever. They'll help take care of the green pools, as long as they work with code compliance. When they don't, then it's a little bit more of an issue. But most people don't know what else to do, so they do nothing. But if they have somebody and they know that they can call code compliance and get some resources, or the fire department refers them to me and we'll give them some resources, then we can get them out of that crisis and we can keep everybody safe.
And I want to thank both of you for being here today. I really learned a lot of valuable information from the two of you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Thank you. We want to remind everyone that if you or someone you know is struggling with clutter inside or outside of the home, please call Mesa's Code Compliance Office. Mesa Fire doesn't respond to incidents in the home unless fire crews ask us to make contact due to a previous experience. You can look into city ordinance codes or call Code Compliance by visiting mesaaz.gov or call 480-644-4273. Coming up next, we'll find out how the fire marshal could save businesses time and money. Stay tuned.